Get full episodes of The Damage Report as a podcast on iTunes and Android, and you can watch the live show every weekday on YouTube TV. Paul Manafort is all over the place in the news. Both yesterday's revelations that his plea deal that he'd been involved in, the cooperation agreement with the special counsel's office, has apparently imploded, and then developments today as well. But let's start yesterday, where the former campaign manager of Donald Trump back during that 2016 election, who's been working with the special counsel's office after he received a buttload of charges just a couple of months ago, wanting to avoid additional charges in his second trial, which was pending at that point, signed on to an agreement with the special counsel's office. He apparently has not been abiding by that for literally months, potentially the entire time that he's been involved in it. So this is from Mueller's team. He said, after signing the plea agreement, Manafort committed federal crimes by lying to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the special counsel's office on a variety of subject matters which constitute breaches of the agreement. So at this point, the Mueller team has not provided any more evidence of actually what those lies were, although they have said that they're going to file a report that makes clear both what they allege he lied about and then the evidence to show it in advance of his sentencing, which is expected to come at some point in the near future. The defendant's lawyers, this is Paul Manafort's lawyers, they dispute that he has actually lied to the special counsel's office, writing that Manafort believes he has provided truthful information, which could mean a lot of different things. But both parties signaled that further cooperation would be fruitless and said Manafort's sentencing should be scheduled. So at this point, if you're Manafort's team, I should say, it really doesn't matter whether you believe that you are being unfairly treated by Mueller. It doesn't look like that agreement is going to be able to continue. They are going to have to do something about it, and that something is likely sentencing him. So that by itself is not a gigantic change from the situation we had a week ago. Paul Manafort was working with the special counsel's office, but we knew from the beginning that this was to get a reduced sentence. It was not to save him from spending time in prison. He was always going to end up there. This is a guy that has committed any number of different crimes for literally years, both since he was Donald Trump's campaign manager and in the years before it. The sort of thing you would want to know if you were a presidential candidate choosing a campaign manager, but Donald Trump was able to slide by that. And so the question remains, until we know what he actually lied about, speculation. What did he lie about? And with Paul Manafort, there's actually a lot of different things that it could be. Now, the biggest potential one, I guess, is information about his work as the campaign manager for Donald Trump. So what did he actually get up to during that multi-month period? So it was expected when Donald Trump had effectively locked up the nomination, there was still the specter that Ted Cruz would provide some sort of last-minute challenge. And so Paul Manafort was originally brought in to manage that potential situation. Donald Trump did not want anything on the floor of the convention manager. There you go. He didn't want any sort of battle on the convention floor, so Paul Manafort was brought in to manage that. And by all measures, supposedly, Paul Manafort was actually very successful at providing some sort of deal both with Ted Cruz's people and some of those who were still sort of against Donald Trump at that point. It was only after that he was brought on to be the campaign manager, but he was apparently a busy guy during that period. So what activities did he get up to at the convention? Since the convention, it's possible that he was lying about that. It's also possible, considering the nature of many of the charges against Paul Manafort, lots of them of a financial nature. We know that he has previously committed fraud in multiple cases having to do with his finances. It is possible that that fraud continued up until the past few months, and that might be the basis for what Mueller has said yesterday. It's possible that some of the spending that he did, we know he had extensive lists of fancy clothes and rugs and trips and apartments, things like that. It's possible he attempted to hide some money from the special counsel. That could go into this area of lying. And it's also possible that it has to do with the actual ongoing investigation of Paul Manafort himself. Now, this is a guy that we know had apparently been intimidating witnesses. So text messages were released a couple of months ago. It is possible that he was lying about that. We don't know for sure, but we do know one thing now, thanks to The Guardian. He apparently was visiting Julian Assange at a very critical point in his work for Donald Trump. So 3 trips, this is being reported by multiple sources to The Guardian. He went to see Assange back in 2013, 2015, and in spring 2016. So all of this is after Julian Assange took asylum in the embassy after his big work with WikiLeaks. Paul Manafort began doing these trips. Now, I don't know about the 2013, 2015 trips, but in spring 2016, this is on the cusp of him becoming the campaign chairman for Donald Trump. Now, how do we know about this? Well, two sources say that his first visit to the embassy took place a year after Assange sought asylum there. That is true. We also have a separate internal document written by Ecuador's Senine intelligence agency and seen by The Guardian that lists Paul Manafort as one of several well-known guests. It also, by the way, mentions Russians. I would keep better documentation if I was the intelligence service for that country. Russian seems a little bit vague. But apparently during a very critical period after the convention, but before the release of WikiLeaks' trove of documents from the DNC and Hillary Clinton and all of that, he went and visited Julian Assange. Now, for the previous trips, I have no idea what the legitimate reason for him to visit Julian Assange is. It has sort of just come to me over the past couple of years that all of these people know each other for some reason. So maybe there's some sort of business thing. Maybe he was going to work on behalf of Julian Assange to try to get some of the legal charges that were floating over his head that forced him to retreat to the embassy, maybe to clear up some of that. I don't honestly know. But I do know that when he visits him in 2016, virtually the month before the documents start to come out, that certainly seems a little bit more questionable. Now, to be fair, both Manafort and WikiLeaks deny that this ever happened. Julian Assange says that it's made up. Manafort said he wasn't involved in the hack and says the claim is 100% false, although he would not give any additional information to The Guardian about those visits. WikiLeaks posted today, remember this day when The Guardian permitted a serial fabricator to totally destroy the paper's reputation. WikiLeaks is willing to bet The Guardian $1 million and its editor's head that Manafort never met Assange. So strong denunciation. I don't know, honestly, at this point. There are supposedly multiple sources that have said that he did go there. We don't know what evidence they have presented to back that up. The documentation from the Ecuadorian intelligence service could be authentic. It could be falsified. We don't know. WikiLeaks and Manafort are saying that it didn't happen, but that is also the sort of thing that they would say that if it did happen. So hopefully at some point we will have a little bit more information to judge for ourselves whether those trips actually happened. But we can speculate at least briefly about why it might have happened. So as George Takei, he doesn't often get quoted on this show, but he laid out an interesting timeline, if we could bring that up on a tweet this morning. Manafort joins Trump campaign in March of 2016. That is before he's the actual campaign manager. That's when he's the convention strategy manager. Manafort visits Assange, if you believe this new reporting from The Guardian in spring of 2016. He is then elevated to campaign manager after that, and that month and the following month, WikiLeaks begins releasing the Democratic emails. Now, that by itself is not proof of anything, but it's questionable. I mean, if it turns out that The Guardian's reporting is true, and again, all the caveats, they are saying it's not true. Manafort denies it, WikiLeaks denies it, Julian Assange denies it. All of that said, if you believed that there was collusion between the Russian intelligence services that apparently stole these documents, WikiLeaks, which released the documents, whether they knew it was from Russian intelligence or not, and the Trump campaign, I mean, you already had the Trump Tower meeting, which was incredibly questionable, especially the messaging around it from Donald Trump Jr. Bear in mind, Paul Manafort was at that meeting as well. If he is also traveling down to Ecuador to see Julian Assange immediately in advance of those being released, I mean, come on. Like at some point, as soon as it's confirmed, we have to be willing to call a spade, as they say. We have to be willing to identify what is clearly going on. There was collusion. That is what it appears to be. Again, all the caveats in the world, but this does not look good for Paul Manafort. It doesn't look good for Donald Trump, which probably explains why he went on another tweet storm against Robert Mueller earlier today. I'm not going to subject you to those actual tweets, but Donald Trump he's dealing with these new revelations like a guy who is really worried about what is being revealed. Now, what will be revealed in the next few months or a few weeks before the Mueller report is coming out, we don't yet know, but already things are looking pretty bad for the president. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.